The great hall of the Vexthara Empire stretched so far that Marcus Chun could barely see the far wall. Crystal pillars rose from the floor like frozen waterfalls, each one glowing with soft blue light. Above his head, the ceiling showed a perfect image of the stars outside, thousands of systems blinking in the darkness. Marcus walked forward slowly, his footsteps echoing on the smooth stone floor. He was not alone. Behind him walked 12 other humans, all dressed in the formal uniforms of Earth's diplomatic corps. They looked calm, but Marcus could feel their nervousness. This was humanity's first official visit to the Vexthara Empire, and everything had to go perfectly. At the end of the hall sat Emperor Vexthan, ruler of 17 sectors and billions of lives. He was tall, even sitting down, with silver skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. 4 eyes watched Marcus approach, arranged in a diamond pattern on his face. The emperor wore robes of deep purple, and on his head sat a crown, made of living metal that moved and shifted like water. Marcus stopped at the proper distance and bowed. He had practiced this bow for weeks, making sure the angle was exactly right. Too shallow would be an insult. Too deep would make humanity look weak. Ambassador Chun of Earth. The Emperor's voice rolled through the hall like distant thunder. Welcome to Vexthara Prime. Your Imperial Majesty, Marcus replied in the Empire's common language. Humanity is honored by your invitation. The Emperor gestured to his left, where 7 figures stood on a raised platform. You know why you are here. The alliance I offer is unprecedented. One of my daughters will marry into humanity's leadership, binding our peoples together. In return, Earth gains protection, trade access, and a voice in the galactic concord. Marcus looked at the 7 princesses. Each one was different, and he had studied them all carefully for months. Princess Sorella stood at the far left. Her silver skin decorated with golden tattoos that marked her as ruler of the Keltha's mining sector. She controlled resources that could make Earth rich beyond measure. Her face was proud, and she barely glanced at Marcus. Princess Kithira stood next to her. Wearing the dark uniform of the Imperial Fleet, she commanded 3 battle groups. Thousands of ships that could protect Earth's colonies from pirates and hostile species. Her 4 eyes studied Marcus like he was a puzzle to solve. Princess Mothira controlled agricultural worlds that fed billions. Princess Zexana held patents on medical technology that could save millions of human lives. Princess Tethira managed the Empire's communication networks. Princess Jirana supervised the Imperial University system. And at the far right, almost hidden behind her sisters, stood Princess Lithara. She was beautiful, like all her sisters, with silver skin and 4 eyes. But where her sisters wore elaborate robes and jewelry, Lithara wore simple white cloth. She controlled no territory. She commanded no fleets. Her name appeared on no official documents or trade agreements. The court called her the Hollow Princess when they thought no one important was listening. Marcus had read reports that suggested she was simple-minded, unable to handle the complex work of ruling. Other reports said she was cursed or sick or just unlucky. Whatever the reason, she had no power in the Empire. You may take time to consider, the Emperor said. Speak with each of my daughters. Learn what they offer. Choose wisely, Ambassador Chun. This decision will shape humanity's future for generations. The court expected Marcus to choose Sorella or Kethira. Everyone knew it. The other ambassadors in the hall whispered to each other, already planning how to respond to humanity's new access to mines or military support. Marcus stepped forward. Your Majesty, I have already decided. A surprised silence fell over the hall. The Emperor leaned forward slightly. Already? You do not wish to speak with my daughters first. I have studied carefully, Marcus said. I choose Princess Lithara. For 3 full seconds, no one made a sound. Then the whispers began, spreading through the hall like wildfire. Marcus heard laughter, poorly hidden behind hands and sleeves. He heard gasps of disbelief. One ambassador from a species called the Horth actually laughed out loud before catching himself. Princess Aurella's face showed nothing, but her hands tightened on the railing in front of her. Princess Kathira tilted her head, studying Marcus with new interest. The other princesses looked confused or amused. Only Lithora showed no reaction at all. She stood perfectly still, her face calm and empty. The Emperor raised one hand, and the hall fell silent again. His four eyes studied Marcus for a long moment. Princess Lithara controls no territory. She commands no resources. She offers humanity nothing of material value. He paused. Are you certain, Ambassador Chun? I will not allow you to change your mind once the choice is made. I am certain, Your Majesty, Marcus said. Clearly. More whispers. Someone in the back of the hall said something about humans being fools. Another voice suggested that humanity had made this choice because they understood they deserved nothing better. The Emperor looked at his youngest daughter. Lithara, step forward. She moved with quiet grace, walking down from the platform. As she passed her sisters, Marcus saw Sorella's lips move, whispering something. Lithara showed no sign she had heard. She stopped beside Marcus and bowed to her father. I accept this union, father, she said softly. Very well. The Emperor stood, and everyone in the hall immediately bowed. In 3 days, the marriage will be formalized. Ambassador Chun, you may speak privately with your chosen bride. Court dismissed. The hall slowly emptied as nobles and ambassadors filed out, still whispering. Marcus's own team looked confused and worried. His second-in-command, Yuri Volkov, caught his eye and mouthed the words, "What are you doing?" Marcus gave him a small shake of his head. Not now. Finally, only Marcus, Lithara, and a handful of guards remained. A servant approached and bowed. The princess's quarters are prepared for your meeting. They walked through corridors of crystal and stone, neither speaking. Guards followed at a distance. Marcus noticed how the servants they passed looked at Lithora with pity or ignored her completely. She was invisible in her own home. The princess's quarters were smaller than Marcus expected and simpler. No expensive art decorated the walls. No exotic furniture filled the rooms. Just basic necessities and a few books on shelves. The door closed behind them. The guards remained outside. Lithora turned to face Marcus. Her 4 eyes met his too, and for the first time, he saw intelligence burning there. Real, sharp, dangerous intelligence. Why? She asked simply. Her voice was different now, stronger and more focused. Tell me the real reason, Ambassador Chun. Why did you choose me? Marcus smiled and responded in perfect Vextharan high dialect, the formal language used only by the imperial family and highest nobles. Because you are exactly what humanity needs, Your Highness. Lithara's eyes widened slightly. She had not expected that. No human spoke the high dialect. It took years to learn, and the Empire did not share teaching materials freely. You speak the old tongue, she said, switching to the same dialect. How? I spent 2 years learning it, Marcus replied, moving to a chair and sitting down without asking permission. It was a calculated risk, a sign that he saw her as an equal rather than a superior. I also learned Zen battle cant, Horth commercial pidgin, and 17 other major languages in the Concord. But I learned your language best because I needed to understand the recordings. What recordings? Lithara remained standing, her posture careful and controlled. Marcus pulled a small device from his pocket and set it on the table between them. 6 months ago, Earth's intelligence service received full access to the Imperial archives as part of the preliminary negotiations. Thousands of hours of court proceedings, diplomatic meetings, and state functions. We analyzed all of it. He pressed a button, and a holographic image appeared in the air. It showed a younger Lithara standing in the background of a diplomatic reception. Two ambassadors spoke in front of her, negotiating a trade agreement. This was 8 years ago. The Kelthian ambassador was asking for reduced tariffs on exported grain. "Watch your lips." The image zoomed in on Lithara's face. Her lips moved slightly, forming words a fraction of a second before the official translator spoke them aloud. "You translated before the translator did," Marcus said quietly. "Kelthian has 47 regional dialects. You knew which one the ambassador was using and translated it instantly." He showed another recording. A different meeting, 5 years ago. Again, Lithara stood in the background, apparently ignored. Again, her lips moved before the translator spoke. "We found 237 instances of this pattern," Marcus continued. "At first, we thought it was coincidence. Then our linguistics team realized what they were seeing. You understand every language spoken in this empire. All 247 of them." Lithara's face remained calm, but Marcus saw her hands tremble slightly. "That proves nothing. Perhaps I was just mouthing random words." "No." Marcus stood and walked closer to her. "Because we found something else. In the recordings where your lips moved first, the final agreements were always more favorable to the Empire. In recordings where you were not present, the Empire lost ground. Small amounts each time, but consistent. Someone was feeding better information to your father's negotiators. Someone who understood not just the words, but the subtle meanings behind them." He showed a third recording. A Horth delegation arguing about mining rights, their voices rising in anger. In the background, Lithara stood perfectly still, but her eyes moved constantly, watching each speaker in turn. "Here," Marcus said, "you were not translating. You were analyzing. You knew the Horths were going to refuse the Empire's offer before they said it, because you understood the specific words they were using. Words that meant different things in different contexts." Lithara was quiet for a long moment. Then she moved to a cabinet and poured 2 glasses of water. She handed one to Marcus and drank from the other. "My sisters think I am simple," she said softly. "They think I am useless. I have spent 20 years making them believe that." "Because it kept you alive," Marcus said. "Yes." She sat down across from him. "Princess Sorella killed our brother Kethan when I was 12 years old. She made it look like an accident during a hunting trip. Princess Kathira arranged for Princess Mothira's first husband to disappear when he became too influential. Jirana poisoned Princess Zexana's chief advisor 3 years ago. She spoke of murder and betrayal like she was discussing the weather." Marcus realized how dangerous her family truly was. "I am alive because I am not a threat," Lithara continued. "I stand in the background. I listen. I translate in my head but never speak the translations aloud. I learn to hide what I can do because my sisters destroy anything that threatens their power." "But you passed information to your father anyway," Marcus said. She nodded slowly. "Through servants I trusted. Through written notes left where his advisors would find them. Never directly. Never in a way that could be traced to me. My father knows I help him, but he protects my secret because a hidden advisor is more valuable than a public one." Marcus leaned forward. "Your Highness, humanity does not need mining rights. We have asteroids to mine. We do not need battle fleets. We are building our own. What we need is what you have. We need to understand the galaxy we have entered. We need to know when the Zuan ambassador is insulted by our tone of voice. We need to know which Horth trader is lying and which is honest. We need to navigate 247 different cultures without making fatal mistakes." Lithara studied his face carefully. "You want to use me as your intelligence asset?" "No," Marcus said firmly. "We want to offer you something no one else has. We want to give you the freedom to actually use your abilities, openly, without hiding. That would make me a target, she said. It would make you valuable, Marcus corrected. So valuable that harming you would harm everyone who depends on you. Humanity will depend on you, but so will every species we negotiate with on behalf of the Empire. Your sisters can kill rivals who threaten only them. They cannot kill someone whose death would destabilize treaties with dozens of species. Lithara was silent, thinking. Marcus waited. He had made his case. Now she had to decide if she believed him. Your people are strange, she said finally. Every other species in the Concord measures power by immediate strength. Ships, weapons, resources, but you measure it differently. We measure it by potential, Marcus said. By what can be built, not just what exists now. Earth was nothing 200 years ago. One planet, barely able to reach our own moon. Now we have 17 colonies and trade agreements with 8 species. We did that not by conquering, but by finding value where others saw nothing. Like me, Lithara said softly. Like you, Marcus agreed. She stood and walked to the window, looking out over the city. If I agree to this, my sisters will eventually realize what you have gained. They will try to stop it. They will try to kill you, or your people, or me. I know, Marcus said. You are willing to accept that risk? Your Highness, humanity has been the underdog for our entire existence. We have survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and near extinction. We are very good at surviving people who underestimate us. Lithara turned back to face him, and for the first time, she smiled. It was a small smile, careful and unpracticed, like she had forgotten how. Very well, Ambassador Chun, I accept this alliance. But understand this, if you are lying to me, if you try to use me and then discard me like my sisters would, I know 247 ways to destroy you in 247 different languages. Marcus smiled back. I would expect nothing less, Your Highness. They spent the next 3 hours talking. Lithara explained the complex web of alliances and rivalries in the court. She identified which nobles could be trusted and which were loyal to her sisters. She told Marcus about the Zan Collective's current political crisis, about the Horth merchant clan's internal disputes, about dozens of small details that would be crucial for humanity's survival in galactic politics. When Marcus finally left her quarters, the sun was setting outside. He found his team waiting anxiously in their assigned rooms. Well? Yuri demanded. Are you going to tell us what you are doing? Marcus sat down heavily. I am making sure humanity does not just survive in the galaxy. I am making sure we thrive. He began to explain. His team listened with growing understanding and amazement. By the time he finished, even Yuri was nodding. It is brilliant, the older man admitted. If it works, it will work, Marcus said with confidence. Because we are about to show this empire what humanity does best. We find the people everyone else overlooks, and we prove the galaxy wrong about them. The wedding ceremony took place in the Grand Temple, a massive building carved from a single piece of crystal that had taken 3 centuries to complete. Thousands of nobles and ambassadors filled the space, their formal robes creating a rainbow of colors under the crystal ceiling. Marcus stood at the altar wearing Earth's formal diplomatic uniform, dark blue with silver threading. Beside him, Lithara wore traditional Vextheran bridal white, but Marcus noticed her jewelry was simple compared to what her sisters wore to regular court functions. Even at her own wedding, she was being dismissed as unimportant. The emperor performed the ceremony himself, speaking the ancient words that bound 2 houses together. When it was done, Marcus and Lithara were officially married. The crowd applauded politely, but Marcus heard the whispers underneath. He heard the barely hidden laughter. He heard someone say that humanity had wasted their only chance at a real alliance. The reception was held in the palace gardens, where imported plants from 100 worlds created a living museum of color and strange beauty. Marcus moved through the crowd with Lithera at his side, accepting congratulations that ranged from genuine to mockingly polite. Princess Kathira approached them, a military uniform perfectly pressed. Her 4 eyes studied Marcus with cold calculation. "Ambassador Chun," she said smoothly, "I want to offer you one final chance to reconsider. Marriages can be annulled within the first month for various reasons. I would be willing to accept a union with humanity instead, and my sister Lithera could retire to a peaceful estate somewhere quiet." The garden around them grew quiet as people strained to hear the conversation. Marcus met her gaze steadily. "Thank you for your generous offer, Princess Kathira, but I am quite satisfied with my choice." "I see." Kathira's face showed nothing. "I hope you do not come to regret it. My sister is fragile, and court life can be very dangerous for the weak." She smiled without warmth. "Accidents happen. I will keep that in mind," Marcus said, calmly. After Kathira left, Lithera whispered, "She is warning you. She has just decided you are a problem but needs to be solved." "Let her think that," Marcus whispered back. "We have work to do." An hour later, Marcus found the ambassador from the Zun Collective standing alone near a fountain. The Zun were a proud warrior species, tall and covered in dark scales that looked almost like armor. They had been causing problems for human merchant ships, boarding them to inspect cargo, and sometimes confiscating goods they claimed were illegal. The human delegation had spent weeks preparing a proposal to negotiate better terms. Marcus had reviewed it yesterday and decided it was completely wrong. He approached the Zun ambassador, who watched him come with obvious suspicion. "Ambassador Chun," the Zian said in a common tone. His accent was thick. "I did not expect to speak with you today." Marcus bowed in a specific way, his right hand over his heart and his left extended outward. It was an old Zun gesture, but had not been used in formal diplomacy for generations. The ambassador's eyes widened in surprise. Then Marcus spoke in the Zian battle cant, the language warriors used among themselves. "Honored elder of Clan Verses, this unworthy one requests the privilege of offering restoration." The ambassador stood very still. Around them, other guests stared in confusion. They could not understand the words, and they did not recognize the ancient gesture. "You know my clan," the ambassador said slowly, also in battle cant now. "How?" "I know that Clan Verish once held great honor," Marcus continued, still using the proper formal terms. "I know that honor was lost through no fault of the clan itself. I know that you have been sent to restore what was taken unfairly." The ambassador's face, hard to read for most species, showed shock. "This is not common knowledge." "I make it my business to know," Marcus said. "And I offer this. Humanity will purchase rights to establish trade stations in 3 systems near Zan space. We will hire only Zun workers to build and operate these stations. We will pay in technology licenses that your clan can sell to other Zan clans, bringing wealth and influence back to Vershesh. In return, Zian ships will not interfere with human merchant vessels." He pulled a data tablet from his jacket and handed it to the ambassador. "The details are here, written in proper contract cant. I have listed the technology licenses separately. I believe you will find them suitable." The ambassador read quickly, his scaled fingers moving over the screen. His expression changed from suspicion to surprise to something like awe. This is more than fair. These licenses alone would restore my clan's position." "Why offer so much?" "Because what seems generous to you costs humanity very little," Marcus said honestly. "The technology we offer is common among human worlds, but rare in Zen space. And because I believe honor should be restored when it is possible to do so." The ambassador looked at Marcus for a long moment. Then he bowed, deeply and formally. Clanversh accepts. I will send official word to my homeworld immediately. They shook hands in the human way, and then the ambassador placed his scaled palm over his chest in the Zen way. The gesture meant sworn brotherhood, a bond that could not be broken without destroying one's own Arndad, as the ambassador walked away to send his messages. Marcus noticed the crowd around them staring. They had just witnessed something they did not understand, but they knew something important had happened. Over the next 3 weeks, Marcus made more moves. Always with Lithara's guidance, always using information only she could provide. He resolved a border dispute between the Hearth Merchants Guild and a mining company from the Kelthian systems. The dispute had lasted 40 years, with neither side willing to compromise. Marcus recognized that the real problem was not the border itself, but a cultural misunderstanding about who had the right to negotiate in the first place. Once he addressed that using specific Hearth and Kelthian protocol terms, the actual border was settled in one day. He identified a spy network operating in the Imperial Palace. 3 servants working for the Moth-era Agricultural Consortium were passing information to a rival power. Marcus brought the evidence to Emperor Vexton privately. The spies were removed quietly, and the consortium leaders were forced to pay heavy fines. The Emperor's own intelligence service had missed the spy network completely. He negotiated a medical technology sharing agreement that brought advanced human gene therapy to the Empire, while gaining access to Vextharan regeneration techniques that could save countless human lives. Both sides celebrated it as a major victory. With each success, humanity's reputation grew. Other ambassadors began seeking Marcus out for advice. Nobles who had laughed at his choice of bride now watched him carefully at social functions, and people began to notice Lithara. She still dressed simply and spoke softly. But now when she stood beside Marcus at diplomatic functions, people watched her. They saw how Marcus would lean close to hear her whispered advice. They saw how he would adjust his approach after she said something. They saw how she would touch his arm gently when someone was lying to him. Princess Sorella finally understood what had happened. She came to Marcus's quarters one evening, arriving without warning. Marcus was reviewing reports when she was announced. Lithara was visiting the Imperial Library and was not present. Ambassador Chun, Sorella said as she entered. She did not bow or show any of the usual diplomatic courtesy. We need to speak plainly. Of course, Your Highness, Marcus said, gesturing to a chair. She did not sit. I have been investigating your successes. I have reviewed recordings of your negotiations. I have spoken to the people you have impressed. Her 4 eyes were cold. And I have finally understood what my foolish youngest sister has been hiding all these years. Marcus said nothing, waiting. Lithara is a linguistic savant, Sorella continued. She has been feeding information to our father for decades, and now she feeds it to you. You did not choose the weakest princess. You chose the most valuable intelligence asset in the Empire. Your sister is my wife, Marcus said carefully. Not an asset. Do not play games with me, human. Sorella stepped closer. You have made a calculation, a very clever calculation. But you have also made a mistake. What mistake is that? You have disrupted the natural order of this court, Sorella said coldly. You have given Lithara power she was never meant to have. You have made her visible. And visibility in this family is dangerous. She pulled out a data tablet and set it on the table between them. Here is my offer. Divorce Lithara. Marry me instead. I will provide you with everything my sister can, plus the resources and territory I control. Lithara will be allowed to retire to a private estate. She will be safe, comfortable, and far from court politics. Marcus picked up the tablet and looked at the proposal. It was detailed and generous. Sorella was offering an enormous amount to remove the threat. Lithara represented Dot, He set the tablet down and met Sorella's eyes. "No, you refuse?" She sounded more surprised than angry. "You would rather have Lethar's information than my resources?" "I would rather honor the choice I made," Marcus said firmly. "And I would rather not do business with someone who thinks of marriage as a negotiable contract." Sorella's face hardened. "Then you are a fool, Ambassador Chun, and fools do not survive long in the Imperial Court. The treaty protects you from official action, but accidents happen. Shuttle malfunctions. Poisoned food. 1,000 ways to the attack came 2 days later, exactly as Sorella had warned. Ambassador Yuri Volkov was returning from a routine diplomatic meeting on one of Vexstar Prime's moons. His shuttle was a standard transport, nothing special, with a pilot and 2 guards aboard. The moon was only an hour away from the planet by normal flight paths. Halfway through the return journey, the shuttle's navigation system suddenly failed. Every screen went dark. The backup systems did not activate. The pilot struggled with manual controls, but the shuttle was drifting toward a debris field left over from an ancient space battle. Thousands of pieces of dead ships floated in orbit, each one sharp enough to tear through a shuttle's hull. The pilot was good, though. Really good. She had flown combat missions in Earth's Colonial Defense Force before joining the diplomatic corps. She used emergency thrusters to slow the shuttle's drift and managed to navigate through the debris field using only visual references and basic instruments. The shuttle's hull was scratched and dented, but they made it through a live dot when technicians examined the shuttle later. They found that someone had installed a small device in the navigation computer. The device had been programmed to activate at a specific time and location, right before the debris field. It was sophisticated work, the kind that required access to Imperial facilities and advanced technical knowledge. Marcus called an emergency meeting with his team that evening. Lithara was there, her face calm, but her eyes worried. "They tried to kill Yuri," Marcus said flatly. "They failed, but they sent a message. Anyone on our team can be targeted. We are vulnerable. We should leave," one of the junior diplomats said nervously. "Go back to Earth before someone actually dies." "No," Yuri said firmly. He looked tired but determined. "If we leave now, humanity looks weak. Every other species in the Concord will know that threats work against us. We will never be taken seriously again. So what do we do?" Another diplomat asked. Marcus looked at Lithara. She had been quiet, thinking. Now she shook her head slowly. "You cannot win against my sisters in the shadows. They are too experienced at this kind of warfare. You need to bring the fight into the open, where the court can see it." "What do you mean?" Marcus asked, though he had an idea. "Call a session of the Imperial Council," Lithara said. "Make this public. Force my sisters to respond in front of everyone." "That is dangerous," Yuri warned. "If the council sides against us, we lose all support." "They will not side against us," Lithara said with quiet confidence. "Not if you play this correctly. But you must trust me, Marcus. Trust what I know about this court." Marcus studied his wife's face. He saw intelligence there, and careful planning, and something else. He saw someone who had spent her whole life invisible, who had learned to survive by understanding exactly how power worked in this place. "I trust you," he said. The next morning, Marcus formally requested an emergency session of the Imperial Council. Such requests were rare and taken seriously. The Emperor approved it immediately, probably curious about what the human would do. The council chamber was smaller than the Grand Hall, but no less impressive. A circular room with seats arranged in tiers, it held representatives from every major power in the empire. The Emperor sat at the highest point with his 7 daughters arrayed below him. Ambassadors and nobles filled the other seats. Marcus stood in the center of the circle, where everyone could see him. He felt the weight of hundreds of eyes watching, Judging Dot, he began speaking in the common tongue, his voice clear and steady. Honored members of the council, I come before you to discuss what humanity has learned about power in the 3 months since we joined this court. Some of the nobles shifted in their seats. This was not what they had expected. Emergency sessions were usually about immediate crises, not philosophical discussions. Marcus continued. When I was ordered to choose a bride from the Emperor's daughters, I spent 6 months studying the Empire. I read your histories. I analyzed your trade networks. I reviewed recordings of every major diplomatic event in the last decade. And I learned that every species in this room measures power the same way. Military strength, economic resources, territorial control, immediate visible force. He paused, looking around the room. Humanity measures power differently. We call it the doctrine of mutual investment. Let me explain what that means. He activated a holographic display in the center of the room. Images appeared in the air, showing Earth's history. 200 years ago, humanity could barely reach our own moon. We had no faster-than-light travel. We had no alien allies. We had nothing but one overcrowded planet and a determination to survive. The images shifted, showing human colony ships, trade stations, and diplomatic meetings. Today, we have 17 colony worlds. We have trade agreements with 8 species. We have defense pacts with 4 systems. We did not conquer anyone. We did not steal resources. We did not threaten or intimidate. So how did we grow so quickly? Princess Sorella's face was carefully blank, but Marcus saw her hands tighten on the armrests of her chair. We grew by finding value where others saw nothing, Marcus said. We found a species called the Antari, who had lost a war and were considered broken and worthless. We offered them jobs building our space stations. We taught them human engineering techniques. Today, the Antari are our closest allies, and their economy has grown 300%. He showed more examples. The Kelvin, a species that other powers avoided because they were difficult to communicate with. Humanity had spent 2 years learning their language, and now they were valuable trading partners. The Dreth, who lived on a world with resources other species could not easily mine. Humanity had developed special equipment and shared the profits equally. Again and again, humanity has found peoples and opportunities that others overlooked, Marcus said. We do not look for what is strongest right now. We look for what has potential to grow. We invest in that potential. We build partnerships, not hierarchies. He let that sink in for a moment. Then he brought up an image of Lithara. Which brings me to my choice of bride, Marcus said. The court laughed when I chose Princess Lithara. They called her weak, powerless, a waste of humanity's one chance at a strong alliance. But I spent 6 months studying the Empire, and I saw something everyone else missed. He played several of the recordings he had shown Lithara in private, showing her lips moving before the translator spoke, showing her presence at successful negotiations and absence from failed ones. Princess Lithara is a linguistic savant, Marcus announced to the shocked room. She understands all 247 languages spoken in the Empire. She can predict negotiation outcomes by analyzing speech patterns and cultural contexts. She has been secretly advising Emperor Vexton for years, helping him navigate the complex web of galactic politics. She is not weak. She is possibly the most valuable strategic mind in this entire court. The room erupted in noise. Nobles turned to each other, arguing and debating. Several of the princesses looked genuinely shocked. Princess Sorella's face was a mask of controlled fury. The Emperor raised one hand, and silence fell. Continue, Ambassador Chun. I chose Princess Lithara not despite her apparent weakness, but because of what it represented, Marcus said. Every other species here measures strength by what you can see right now. Humanity measures strength by adaptability, by knowledge, by the patience to see potential and help it grow. And by choosing Lithara, we demonstrated to the Empire what humanity values and how we operate. He brought up a final display, showing the web of agreements and treaties humanity had established in just 3 months. The Zen trade stations, the Horth border resolution, the medical technology exchange, dozens of smaller agreements and connections. With Princess Lithara's help, humanity has established more valuable relationships in 3 months than most species establish in decades, Marcus said. We have become essential to the Empire's diplomatic operations. We have proven our value not through force, but through demonstrated competence. He looked directly at Princess Sorella. 2 days ago, someone attempted to murder my second-in-command by sabotaging his shuttle. The attack failed, but the message was clear. Someone wants to stop what humanity is building here. More gasps from the crowd. The Emperor's 4 eyes narrowed dangerously. I am not here to accuse anyone specific, Marcus continued, though everyone knew who he was talking about. I am here to make a simple point. Humanity has made itself valuable to the Empire. We have used our skills to strengthen trade relationships, resolve disputes, and improve communications across dozens of species. Anyone who disrupts this work, anyone who threatens humanity's delegation, threatens the stability we help maintain. He turned in a slow circle, making eye contact with as many council members as possible. The doctrine of mutual investment means that harming your partners harms yourself. It means that true strength comes not from dominating others, but from making yourself essential to their success. It means that the smart play is not to fight over scraps of power, but to create new value that everyone can share. Marcus stopped and faced the Emperor directly. Your Majesty, I formally request that the Council investigate the attack on Ambassador Volkov. I request that anyone found responsible face appropriate consequences. And I request that Princess Kathira's investigation took exactly 6 days. She was thorough and professional, interviewing witnesses, examining technical evidence, and tracking financial records. When she presented her findings to the Emperor in a private session, her face was grim. The device that had sabotaged Ambassador Volkov's shuttle had been manufactured in a facility controlled by the Sorella Consortium. The technician who installed it had received payment from a shell company traced back to Sorella's chief of staff. 3 members of Sorella's household staff had been in the shuttle bay on the day before the attack, when they had no legitimate reason to be there. The evidence did not directly implicate Sorella herself. She was too smart for that, but it clearly pointed to her faction. When the Emperor convened the full council to hear the report, Princess Sorella sat perfectly composed. She listened to the evidence without changing expression. When Kathira finished, Sorella stood. Father, members of the council, she said formally. I am shocked and appalled to learn that members of my household may have been involved in this attack. I assure you I had no knowledge of these actions. However, as head of my house, I accept responsibility for the failures of my staff. It was a carefully prepared statement. She admitted just enough to appear honorable while denying direct involvement. Princess Mothira stood next. Father, I move that Princess Sorella's household be sanctioned. All staff members involved should be removed from their positions. The Sorella Consortium should pay a fine of 1 million credits to the human delegation as compensation. Princess Zexana stood. I second the motion. Furthermore, I propose that Princess Sorella be removed from the Council of Trade for a period of 2 years, to demonstrate that such actions have consequences. Marcus watched this carefully. 3 of Sorella's sisters were moving against her, seeing an opportunity to weaken their rival. They did not care about justice or the attack on Yuri. They cared about power, but the result was the same. The vote passed. Princess Sorella's holdings were sanctioned, her staff were dismissed, and she lost her position on one of the Empire's most important councils. She accepted the judgment with dignity, bowing to her father and taking her seat without protest. But Marcus saw the cold fury in her eyes. That evening, Marcus received an unexpected visitor. Princess Sorella came to his quarters alone, without guards or attendants. When she entered, she looked tired. The mask of perfect composure had slipped slightly. "Ambassador Chun," she said quietly, "may I speak with you privately?" Lithara was in the next room. Marcus could have called her, but something made him agree to speak with Sorella alone. "Of course, Your Highness." She sat down heavily, not with her usual graceful control. For a moment she just looked at him, and Marcus saw something he had not expected. Respect. "How did you know?" she asked finally. "How did you know the court would protect you?" Marcus considered his answer carefully. "I did not know for certain. But your wife analyzed 3 centuries of Imperial Council decisions. She identified a pattern. The Vexthara Empire has lasted for 3,000 years, not because it is the strongest, but because it is the most stable. Every time instability threatens, the Council moves to eliminate it. Not out of justice or morality, but out of pure survival instinct." He leaned forward. "When I made humanity essential to that stability, we became untouchable. Not because we are strong, but because removing us would create more problems than it would solve." Sorella laughed, a bitter sound. "My father knew this would happen. When you chose Lithara, he approved it immediately. I thought he was just amused by human stupidity. But he was testing us, was he not? Testing to see which of his daughters understood true power and which only understood force." "Perhaps," Marcus said. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. "I have spent 30 years building my position. I have eliminated rivals, made careful alliances, and accumulated wealth and territory. And in 3 months, you have accomplished more than I have with all my resources. Do you know why?" "Why?" Marcus asked. "Because I tried to control everything around me," Sorella said softly. "I saw threats everywhere and eliminated them. But you did the opposite. You found people everyone else had dismissed and helped them become valuable. The Zan ambassador, the minor nobles you befriended, and most of all, my supposedly worthless sister. You created value instead of hoarding it." She turned back to face him. "I finally understand why my father has always seemed disappointed in me and my sisters. We learned the wrong lessons from watching him rule. We learned to be strong and ruthless, but we never learned to be wise." "It is not too late to learn," Marcus said carefully. Sorella smiled sadly. "For me, perhaps it is. I have too many enemies now, too much blood on my hands. But I wanted you to know that I understand what you have accomplished here. And I want to tell you something important." "What is that?" "My sisters who voted against me today did not do it out of justice. They did it because I am weakened and they see an opportunity. They will come for you next, Ambassador Chung. Not immediately, but eventually. They will try different approaches, subtler methods. And they will not stop until they control what you and Lithara have built together." "I will be careful," Marcus said. "Be more than careful," Sorella warned. "Be prepared, because the game is not over. It is just beginning." She left without another word. Marcus told Lithara about the conversation later. She listened thoughtfully. "She's right," Lithara said finally. "My sisters will not give up. But she's also wrong about one thing." "What is that?" "She thinks this is still a game that they know how to play," Lithara said. "But you have changed the rules. They just do not realize it yet. Over the next 6 months, those new rules became clear to everyone. The Emperor formally appointed Lithara as Chief Diplomatic Counselor, a position that had not existed for 8 centuries. It gave her authority over all external negotiations conducted on behalf of the Empire. Her sisters protested, but the council approved the appointment by a wide margin. Too many nobles had benefited from Lithar's insights through Marcus's negotiations. They wanted her officially empowered to help their own interests. Lithara moved carefully into her new role. She did not suddenly become loud or dominant. She remained soft-spoken and thoughtful. But now when she spoke, people listened. Now when she attended meetings, she sat at the table instead of standing in the background. Marcus watched her grow into her power with quiet pride. She hired staff, established protocols, and began training a new generation of diplomatic specialists. She taught them to listen for subtle meanings, to understand cultural contexts, to see patterns others missed. Humanity's position in the Empire grew stronger with each passing month. More species requested human mediators for their disputes. Human trade expanded dramatically. 3 more human colonies were established in systems granted by the Empire. Other species began to notice humanity's unusual approach. The Zen invited human advisors to help modernize their economy. The Horth asked for human help establishing a new educational system. Species that had never even heard of Earth a year ago were now actively seeking human partnerships. Marcus stood in his quarters one evening, looking out at the city that had once seemed so alien and was now almost familiar. Lithara came to stand beside him, her hand finding his. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "I am thinking about how far we have come," Marcus said. 6 months ago, you were invisible, and I was a stranger in a strange land. Now look at us. Now I am the Emperor's chief diplomatic counselor, and you are the most influential ambassador in the court," Lithara said with a smile. "It is strange, is it not? How quickly things can change." "It is strange," Marcus agreed, "but also exactly what humanity is good at. Finding potential and helping it grow." A message alert interrupted them. Marcus checked it and smiled. 3 more species have requested human mediation, and the Antari delegation wants to discuss expanding our partnership. "You will need to hire more diplomats," Lithara said. "The current team cannot handle all these requests." "I know. I have already sent word to Earth. Another 50 diplomats are being trained and will arrive next month." He looked at his wife. "You will need to train them. Teach them what you have taught me about reading between the lines, understanding contexts, seeing what others miss." "I can do that," Lithara said. "I have already prepared training materials. It will take time, but humans learn quickly when properly taught." Marcus pulled her close. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for trusting me, for taking the risk of becoming visible again, for teaching me how to navigate this impossible place." "Thank you," Lithara replied, "for seeing me when everyone else looked away, for believing I had value when even I had started to doubt it, for showing me that weakness is not the same as powerlessness." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the city lights. In the distance, shuttles rose and fell like fireflies, carrying people and goods across the planet and to the stars beyond. A year ago, Marcus had been given an impossible task: forge an alliance with an ancient empire on behalf of humanity's fragile young civilization. Everyone had expected him to choose power, resources, or military strength. Instead, he had chosen potential. He had chosen someone the entire galaxy had overlooked and dismissed.